Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition and we turn now to poem 592, What Care the Dead for Chanticleer. Now this Chanticleer will take us back to our study of 140 where the Chanticleer was the rooster. We'll remember it as well in 146 and 289. Now, we've called our series Chats with Emily because we would love to imagine that we could sit down with Emily and ask her some informal questions, sometimes maybe formal questions, but rather informal questions like, is it possible before you wrote 592 that you had already finished your study of Shakespeare's Hamlet? And especially that famous scene in Hamlet Act 5 where he speaks directly to the skull of Yorick. And he asks for his jokes and his jibes and says, oh, you don't have any, quite chap-fallen. And that very idea of making fun in some ways of the finality of death is, I think, standing behind much of this. Now, of course, the question of this poem is, what's it like to be dead? This is what some have argued is Emily's flood subject. In other words, the question of afterlife. And what is it like to be in the grave buried? Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. Hopefully you've worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 591 poems. We just finished 591 to interrupt his yellow plan. Now, if you've done that study, you will have seen resonances or echoes of a poem like this, where, for example, she will have a tripartite or a three-part breakdown with three simple questions. She'll point out that the dead buried in the ground don't care about day, don't care about summer, don't care about winter. And in that regards, it makes some sense that we would pay attention to the question marks of the poem, right, as we enjoy this. I'm going to argue, though, that this is really Emily's dance one more time with Dante and the Divine Commedia, especially Inferno, where Dante does his special visits. We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net over all of the Divine Commedia, as well as we said, Shakespeare's Hamlet, and more particularly, I think, Hamlet Act 5, and that conversation that Hamlet has with Yorick and then about Yorick. And then, of course, telling that skull to make an address to his mistress in her chamber, which is, of course, the very hole that he's standing next to, right, for Ophelia. This is how she says it, Emily. What care the dead for Chanticleer? What care the dead for day? 'Tis late your sunrise vex their face, and purple ribaldry of morning pour as blank on them as on the tier of wall the mason builded yesterday, and equally as cool. What care the dead for summer? The solstice had no sun, could waste the snow before their gate, and knew one bird attune could thrill their mortarized ear of all the birds that be, this one beloved of mankind, henceforward cherished be. What care the dead for winter? Themselves as easy freeze, June noon as January night, as soon the south her breeze of sycamore or cinnamon deposit in a stone, and put a stone to keep it warm, give spices unto man. The dead can produce about as much as spices that are growing from the stone or the rock. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant bit of irony. Notice it's all set up with three questions. What did the dead care about the rooster saying it's time to get up? Or the day that is soon to start? The dead don't care about this because obviously they're gone. It's late. The sunrise can't vex their face. And, of course, the sunrise of morning pour, and then an interesting simile, as blank on them, blank may be, I think, the key word of the poem, as on the tier of wall the mason builded yesterday, and equally as cool. The point being, the dead could care less about the progress and the building that's going on. And then, what do the dead care about summer? Well, the solstice has no influence for them, right? You might as well, for them, snow and sun are all the same, as well as the song of the bird. We'll think about, of course, Shelley's To a Skylark here. To a bird attune, it would, if they could just hear the bird's song one time, it would mortarize their ear of all the birds that be. This one, beloved of mankind, we're going, notice, from Chanticleer to, obviously, the birds. Henceforward, cherished be, if the dead could just hear one time the song of a bird, which we get to hear all the time, and yet somehow we just don't appreciate it very much. And then finally about the winter. So notice we'll go from day to summer to winter. What care the dead for winter, right? They don't care because there is they're as easily frozen in the dirt in June as January when there's a nasty snow, as opposed to the sun of June. Again, the language is brilliant here. June, noon, as January night, as soon, the south, her breeze. And then she finishes with this remarkable kind of word picture of, think about where our spices come from. They come from things alive, right? Things that grow. It's impossible to imagine dead things producing spice. What is she doing here at 2a? I think that she's arguing that the only true joy comes to the living and not to the dead, although, of course, her theology will challenge this position, and I think she was grappling with the idea, is it better to be alive in this world or dead and living in the other world? See, again, the flood subject for Emily. At 2b, well, the construction, again, of the three stanzas come to mind. 3a, I mentioned Dante, but I really think, go back and look at our study again of Hamlet, Act 5. And the dance that Hamlet makes with death, as we have said, where he moves closer and closer to dying, and then ultimately at the end of that play, himself is dead. And then what does he say? The rest is silence. I think if we could have that conversation with Emily, we would say, how much of the rest is silence as a line for Emily is what you're playing with here? I'm guessing she would probably say, absolutely right, that's the game I'm playing. At 3b, finally, how do you think about the dead? And to what degree is this poem speaking to you on truth or only on imagination? Thank you.